welcome to Take Me Out, the ultimate podcast about ballparks and the baseball experience. It's February 26, 2025. I'm Alexandra Ellis, and I'm joining my friend Timothy Malcolm.
What's up, baseball fans? And hi, Alex. How are you on this Wednesday morning in the end of February, spring training 2025?
I'm amazing because we've already had a few spring training games, and it's baseball's in full swing. No, pun intended. Yeah, let's do that. And I'm here for it.
Bring the pun, bring the terrible puns.
Let's do. I love dad jokes, all of that stuff. It's great. Keeps me going.
Well, I am a dad, so I will try to bring that energy if possible.
I got one today. You're next.
Okay. Have you watched any spring training games yet this season?
I've seen clips. I mean, I did see Bregman's first home run, so good for him. I'm not sour. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, you sought that out, though. You actually went.
I didn't seek it out. I think it was like my Twitter because I follow so many Astros beat reporters like Alex Bregman hit the first home run for the Red Sox, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
He hit it over their little green monster, so it's a little taste of what's to come, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I watched maybe 30 to 40 minutes of a Phillies preseason game against the Orioles, I think, this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me not even to the bottom of the first inning, the end of I saw two hitters for the Phillies. And I was like, all right, this team stinks. I can't watch them right now. I just they're just trying to swing at everything.
Yeah.
And they're grounding it softly to first base. And it's the same Phillies team I'm always used to. It's spring training. It's spring training. You gotta
to have
yes. It's all there, but it's fine.
Yeah, man.
So welcome to Take Me Out. This is the ultimate podcast about ballparks and the baseball experience. I'm Tim Malcolm. That's Alex Ellis. And we are going to give you today a really fun episode where we're going to go through the 2025 regular season and talk about potential trips that you can take as a baseball fan. If you want to go see some games, see some ballparks, maybe you've never seen those ballparks before, this is an opportunity to get some ideas. Maybe you'll take the very trips that we're going to talk about. We're going to also come up with our own trips that we want to take this year. We're going to try to plan them out in real time. So that'll be coming up. We're also going to get to the news. We're also going to get to some other fun stuff. But anything you want to talk about before we get rolling with the rest of the episode, Alex?
I have to get this off my chest. I think it's the thing with the Yankees announcing the facial hair policy has been changed.
Yeah, the
no
Yankees...
offense to that, Scott, but I'm sure Garrett Cole complained a lot because yikes.
Yeah, I mean, why? I mean, look, I'm a beard guy. I've always been a beard guy. In fact, right now, so I don't have much of a beard right now, which I usually have more of a beard. And the reason is because my razor crapped out on me. And when the razor craps out on a man in the middle of a shave, you just have to go, all right, I guess it's complete. Like we're going down to nothing. Yeah. We're going to zero, and we're going to grow it back out, and we're going to get a new razor. It's fine. So I'm in the process of regrowing my beard right now. So it's very nothing. And I got the chubbiness going on right now. It's fine. But yeah, I it's about time, right? This isn't the 1950s. I mean, I know this was Steinbrenner's whole thing back in the 70s and such. We want our we don't want crazy athletics players. We don't want that whole thing going on. And Bill Veeck and all that. No way. We're not that team. We're not the hipsters. We're not the hippy dippy, flower children, prancing around in the mud Yankees. We are pinstripe Yankees.
Yes, we mean
it's 2025, right? And facial hair is everywhere. It's everywhere.
It is. Yeah.
We don't. It used to be. Honestly, I would have to shave and go to almost nothing, if not nothing, before work. When I started the week, right? When I started in a 9-to-5 job back in 2007, 2008, 2009, I would go clean shaven because it was generally frowned upon to have facial hair, or at least unkempt facial hair, even not that long ago. And only in the last, I think, 15 years and 10 years really has it been whatever. Do whatever the hell you want. It's fine. You can have you can have a scruffy beard. You can have a handlebar mustache with the curls, whatever the hell all that stuff.
There's competitions for that. It's kind of fun seeing those pictures when those come out. It's really cool seeing those
do
crazy
you like
beards.
Do you like the handlebar mustache?
I like it to a point. It's really corny, but it can be corny in a good way, I think. There are people who just wear it
rolly
like, I'm
fingers.
trying to be really cool, and it's like, okay, that doesn't work that way. But when you like just do it because it's like it's one of your favorite things to do, but you're not trying to show off to be, oh, I'm different, I'm weird, you know. It's I think it has to do with a intention, I guess you could say. Not trying to get too deep here, but you know.
When you're wearing like leather suspenders and you're dancing to the Lumineers and drinking your coffee out of a mason jar.
A guy with a
As I
triple
drink my coffee
IPA
out of a
that you've
mason
never
jar.
heard of, you know, from your microbrewed garage, all that
And then you have
stuff.
the handlebar mustache. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little like, look, I was also there when I was, 32 or whatever, 10 years ago around that time.
Mhm.
I was probably in that hipster sort of. I remember walking down the street one day and I had like a really cool mustache. It was at the time when like the mustache was coming back into vogue, and I was
Mhm.
walking down the street in some random hipster town in upstate New York, and some guy just passed me and he was like, "Dude, awesome mustache." And I was like,
That's amazing.
"Yes, I made it. I'm there."
I'm there. Was that around the time? I don't know if you remember this when like girls would get little the Sharpie or actually would get tattoos on their fingers and we would do this. So they'd actually do you remember that?
Oh, I don't know.
That was
I know what
really
you're talking
weird.
about, but I don't remember that
Yeah.
being like a big thing. But maybe that was more of a big
It
thing.
was on I think it was the MySpace era, so yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I guess it was around that
Ages
time.
us right here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So to put a button on it, yeah, Yankees facial hair is good on players. Thank you for entering the 21st century and allowing that to happen. We will talk later on in the program about another big change that the Yankees announced this week, and you probably already know what that is, a ballpark change, but we'll get to that later on in the show, and that's a little bit more pertinent to our conversation here. But before we get into the news itself, real quick, we do have some social media to talk about, some Apple Podcasts and Spotify stuff to talk about. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Take me out. Just look for us there. And I implore you, I ask you, I hope you do this. Go to those podcast platforms and give us 5 stars and a positive review. Please do that if it's possible. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, both are really good. Apple Podcasts is really good because a lot of people still go to Apple Podcasts for their podcast listening. And the more 5-star ratings and reviews that we get, the more we get into that algorithm. You know the deal. We get up a lot higher, all that stuff. You probably heard this from a million podcasts before, but I have to say this because it does help us out. We want to try to grow our listener base. And also, we would appreciate that. And Alex,
Friends.
if you want to talk about the social media that we're doing, I know you're starting the Instagram for us, which is
Yeah.
very helpful.
So I'm starting it. It's still in this very, very baby stages. I think we only have a couple followers, which I think is me and my sister. But if we can
Awesome.
get some more, that'd be cool. So we are on Instagram as at Take Me Out Pod. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Take Me Out Pod. And we're on YouTube. If you're seeing us right now and you're on YouTube,
Oh, hi.
youtube.com.
Hello.
Hello. Take Me Out Pod. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, share, all that stuff. Like all like the YouTube people say, smash that button. I don't know. Is that what they say?
I don't think they say that anymore. I think that's
No.
2 years ago.
Okay. I'm doing great. Thanks.
I mean, both of our ages start with the number 4, so it's
Yeah.
fine. It's okay.
We're from the 1900s. Give us a break.
That's right. We're from the days when the Yankees couldn't have facial hair. All right. Why don't we get into the news, Alex?
Let's do the news. All right, we're going to start in Atlanta. The Braves unveil a new food hall at Truist Park. The Braves announced Monday the addition of Outfield Market, a new right field food hall at Truist Park that will open ahead of the team's April 4th home opener. Outfield Market will include 8 new food stalls, a grab-and-go option, a shaded area, a retail option, and a 470 square foot LED board. It will be located across from a new bullpen area lounge called The Pen.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You have not been inside Truist Park.
I have not. I've been to the old new Turner Field.
The old
So,
new Turner Field.
Yeah. So I mean, there were 2, right? I mean, so I've been to the new
there
one.
was Atlanta Fulton County Stadium was back in the 90s, and then Turner Field opened around the Olympics, 1996, and they were there for several years. And that's still there, but it's now a football stadium. And then they moved to Truist, 10 years ago or whatever it is now.
Okay.
Truist, this is really good news for me to hear. I am a huge advocate of local food and getting, regional and local businesses into your ballpark as much as possible. And part of this, they apparently scouted the Atlanta metro area to find local businesses to bring into the park for food and beverage options.
Oh, how
so
cool.
This outfield market will include, from what I hear, local businesses. So maybe it'll be
That's
a local
great.
burger place, or maybe a local soul food place, or a local Mexican food place, or whatever it is. They will have some of those in this sort of like small vendor stalls that they're going to have at this market, which is great because Truist Park, on the range of ballparks as far as how many local offerings that they have food and beverage wise, Truist
Mhm.
Park is probably more towards the bottom. One of the things that I remember just feeling about Truist walking through was it was a lot of chain restaurants and chain food businesses that were all over the place. Like, I
Mhm.
distinctly remember seeing Chick-fil-A. I mean, Chick-fil-A is actually, I think, right where that outfield market is going to be, in the right field corner. I want to say, I think so.
Okay.
So that's really nice that they're going to actually add some local food into this. And a lot of ballparks already have this sort of food court thing where you have, a range of different options, a lot of them local in this area, whether it's a circular area like in Comerica Park, the what is it, the first base side that they have there, or in Milwaukee at American Family on the first level, they have this big open area. Marlins Lone Depot also has this big open area on the first level that has a lot of different like food courty style food and all that. So it's good that the Braves are doing this, but it's really good that they are bringing in some local businesses. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Also, they're going to have a new bar there that's adjacent to the Coors Light Chop House. The Chop House is there, I think it's at the right field entrance. So it's all the same area where this is all going to be changing.
Mhm.
Or maybe the Chop House is in left field. No, it's in right field. It's in right field. And the Chop House is this big sort of format sports bar-ish kind of place with a lot of TVs. It always has a huge line. Like before the game, there's usually like 70 people in line to get in the Chop House.
A
So if
line
you
for
want to get in the
barbecue.
Chop
That's
House,
how it is.
if you want to get in the Chop House, you have to wait. And they have a lot of macro brews, and they have, your basic sort of bar food setup sort of thing, but it's all
Mhm.
Braves colored out and stuff like that. But to have another bar next to it, which apparently will have more elevated cocktails and more of an open air kind of a thing. So hopefully that'll kind of split up some of the audience for the Coors Light Chop House. Because frankly, like, I'm fine with a sports bar. I like a sports bar. But if you have elevated cocktails, you're teasing me with a good time. And I want
Yeah.
an elevated cocktail, usually over like a Miller Lite or something like that. So I think this is all good news for the Braves.
I do too. That's great. I especially like, since the ballpark's not in Atlanta itself, the fact that they're bringing in local businesses that are probably
Yes.
losing money from the fact that the ballpark's not there in Atlanta anymore.
Yeah.
It still helps them out, and I love that. That's great.
Yeah. And of course, the Battery is the big entertainment district that is basically the surrounding neighborhood of Truist Park. Truist Park is the anchor of the Battery, which is this incredible residential commercial district.
Hmm.
There are a lot of restaurants and bars in the Battery, so there's a lot of competing sort of things going on. But a lot of the restaurants and bars in the Battery are, there's a couple Atlanta-based restaurants and bars maybe it's their second location is at the Battery or something like that, or it's a chain, right, that has more of like a boutique chain, not necessarily like a TGI Fridays, but like a boutique sort of restaurant has something that is more craft, quote unquote, right? They will
Yeah.
have a location at the Battery. So again, great that you'll have local offerings at Truist itself, so that if you're at the Battery and you're like, I don't want to have sort of a non-Atlanta local sort of food thing. I want something that's local, and I can bet, I can help somebody who is here
Yeah.
with my money. Like, then you can go to the park and actually do that at the outfield market. So that's all really good news.
I like that. I'm glad for Braves fans who get to experience that. Good for y'all. All right, we are moving over to the West Coast. We have an update from Rob Manfred on the athletic situation, which is not much of an update. Susan Slusser of the San Francisco Chronicle reported last week that MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred didn't give much of an update on the status of the A's new ballpark in Las Vegas. He also said Sutter Health Park in Sacramento will be as close to, quote unquote, a major league park as possible.
Yeah, I don't know what this is yet. I mean, we haven't talked about Sutter Health Park itself. Next week on the podcast, we are going to go deep onto Sutter Health Park and tell you all about what we know about the park, what to do there, where to go, like what offerings are there, all the stuff that you need to know. A big guide to Sutter Health is next week. So that we'll really get into then. But I don't know, it doesn't feel promising. That it seems like Commissioner
Yeah.
Manfred doesn't really have a feeling one way or another about. He said it was going to be it's a charming park. Sutter Health is a charming park,
It sounds,
which
I
I
don't like the way he says that. Charming. It's just
Yeah, I feel like
No,
when
rubs
you're
you the wrong way.
it's like a
Weird.
real estate agent saying that a house, well, this house is, it's cute,
Yeah.
you can
It's
really
rustic.
it's right, you could settle into it, it's a
Yeah.
builder, it's a grower,
It's so many
like
adjectives.
it's a minor league park that's been around for several years now. Why are we like still calling it like a charming park? I, it's a 14,000 capacity park, and I don't think they're going to be adding on to it at all.
Mm,
This park's going to be the A's park for 3 years. They're not
yeah.
supposed to move into Vegas until 2028 right now. So this season, next season, 2027, they are in Sacramento. I feel like, and we'll get into Sutter Health next week, and hopefully there's more to really like dive into, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more there. But I feel like if you're going to have a major league team in your park for 3 years, now, I know a lot of this is on the Athletics, I'm sure, and we're not going to get into the ownership part of it because I don't want to get into that whole sidebar. But I feel like you got to have more if you're going to be in a different home for 3 years. It's not like they're there. It's not like Steinbrenner Field for the Rays. This is a 3-year relationship. You should have more, and you should be building on this.
You knew it was going to happen too.
Yes, you had planned for this, obviously. I mean, you planned to leave Oakland. You didn't plan necessarily go to Sacramento. It was an option, and then you took that option. But I don't know. I feel like once they decided Sacramento was an option or the option, it's like, well, let's start figuring out how to build more seating into this park. Maybe not a 30,000 capacity stadium, which is what the new Vegas park is supposed to be, but go from 14,000 to like 18,000 or maybe 20,000, something that is comparable to an athletics game when it's in a different city, and maybe you're not going to get as many fans there, over the next 3 years, but you still want a fan base. It feels very raw dealish to me. It feels very weird to me. I don't love it, but hopefully, I am sure there's going to be a lot of things I'm going to like about Sutter Health and Sacramento, of course. But right now, it feels like all the language we're getting so far is like, this just feels wrong for a lot of people.
A lot of it, just the way he's been talking about it, just reminds me a lot of, we'll circle back, just like, just not his big concern. And I can't understand how, I'm trying to see both sides of it, but like Oakland, if they wanted to add seats to that would I'm assuming that would be on the Oakland organization, but like
yes.
So they would add seats to that while building another park. That's so much money. Like it's
well, but it's a $1.75 billion stadium in Vegas. This like domed. It's going to be like a entertainment center more than just a stadium, right? This is going to like
it's Vegas, yes.
A Vegas ballpark. This is really going to be the first new wave ballpark. We haven't had a wave of ballpark construction since really the 2000s, the decade of the 2000s, right? Like there were parks that were built in 09, 10, but that was the end of that sort of big run that was Camden Yards, and then that sort of next wave, right? So you had the Camden Yards wave, and then you had that secondary wave that was sort of, the Petcos and beyond, where they were coming from a different place slightly, where it's not just looking back at the past, it's more a little bit more metal, a little bit more contemporary, but still very nostalgic in a lot of ways. Like we haven't had a wave of ballparks since that last wave. And so this Vegas ballpark is going to be it's a big moment in ballpark construction, because we're going to see where we're going to go from here, right? Like I would imagine after this Vegas park, whatever the Rays might do after, this whole Tropicana thing sort of finishes off, the Royals, when they move out of Kauffman, there's going to be a couple more teams over the next decade or so that are going to also move out of their parks at some point. They're going to want to probably build a ballpark that's a lot like the A's Park in Vegas. It will be a template because it'll be retractable or domed. It'll have different experiences throughout the park. You're going to be bringing in that sort of entertainment district feel into the ballpark structure. It's going to be more of a small city within, it's like a city in a ballpark sort of thing. Like it's going to be really interesting. So if the A's are going to spend 1.7
tourists, like I think people will travel. to check out the
Oh, yeah.
ballpark.
I mean,
And not just ballpark travelers. Everyone's like, I have to see what a ballpark in Vegas looks
well,
like,
I mean, I've never been to Vegas. I'm going to
Neither have
Vegas
I.
because
Yeah.
the A's are going to Vegas, and I'm gonna like make it a Vegas vacation. It's gonna be like whatever the hell it's gonna be for me. But this is a $1.75 billion park, is my point. They're spending a lot of money on this. They really care about it, obviously. Why can't you spend an additional couple $1,000,000 or whatever it has to be to put more seats in, to make it a little bit more of an experience in Sacramento so that you don't lose your core fandom in Oakland and you make people in Sacramento feel good? Yeah, maybe you don't care in the long run about all those people because you're just going to have people coming to Vegas for your team later on. But have some, like, there's an opportunity for goodwill in all of this mired mess that Oakland is doing, or the Athletics are doing. Take that opportunity to maybe build some goodwill with some people. And it doesn't seem like that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's a mess. And I said this so many times. I just feel so bad for Oakland fans. They don't deserve any of this. It's
They're
not
the
fair.
real losers. They're the real losers here.
Yeah,
it's really stinks. They're the victims,
yeah.
they're the victims here.
Yeah. Sorry, Oakland fans. We're moving on to the Savannah Bananas. The Savannah Bananas ballpark sees a number of renovations. According to Adam Van Brimmer at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Grayson Stadium in Savannah, Georgia, aka home of the Savannah Bananas, got its first major facelift in years. The Bananas owners Jesse and Emily Cole renovated the left field right field line grandstands and added a high-def video board and changed the field completely from grass and dirt to artificial turf. Apologize.
Yeah, so this is really great news. I mean, you're talking about the Athletics seemingly not doing some work to Sutter Health, but maybe not enough, and it's just charming and whatever. This is a situation where you have an organization that has been created that is flourishing, thriving. Really, they should be what the Athletics, like they have that vibe. They've taken the country by storm, this baseball version of the Harlem Globetrotters, and their barnstorming and all that. And their field that they call home is this almost 100-year-old ballpark. It's actually been around for 99 years. Next year will be year 100 for Grayson Stadium. And I mean, it's played host to legends, right? Legends have played at Grayson Stadium. And here it is coming into year 100. And you have this opportunity where this great organization has taken root in Savannah. And these owners now have an opportunity, because they've made a lot of money now, to make the adjustments and make the renovations. And they're doing that. So yes, it was a grass and dirt field, and now it's all turf. They've even painted dirt onto they've painted brown onto the turf to make it look like dirt. The idea is because Savannah is a relatively rainy area and they get a lot of rainouts in the summertime. So this is a way to help the drainage situation out, so that when it does rain earlier in the day in Savannah and the Bananas have a night game or something, you can maybe get the field fixed a little quicker and you don't have to cancel the game that night, that kind of thing. So that's really a great thing for the Bananas, to be able to just increase the opportunities they have to play their baseball games. They also have, like you said, the LED high-def video board. They're going to have a dancing lights LED system. I don't know what that is, but that sounds awesome. Maybe a throwback to the old Astros scoreboard experience of the 1970s at the Astrodome. Yep. And yeah, so I mean, this is really great stuff. It's really great stuff.
Yeah.
They, according to this article as well, they had a weekend series this past weekend in Savannah, or it might have been, I think it was this past weekend. They drew 15,000. The stadium capacity is 5,000, which means they sold out 3 straight games over a weekend. Like this is a phenomenon of a baseball thing. This is the one. I mean, honestly, and hopefully we'll do a deeper dive on the Bananas at some point and sort of how they've taken on baseball by storm in a way that we can do it. Don't take me out, but this is what baseball has been missing for a very long time. There's this Twitter thread or X thread or whatever from days of yore when I used to be on that app, where it was like, what is the one thing you would do to fix baseball tomorrow? And my answer was always, kids go to games for free. Kids go to games for free. Why? Because what does it cost to get a kid into a ball game? Just the cost of the ticket, right? So it's $20, $30, whatever. They're going to buy food. They're going to buy drinks. They're going to buy merch, right? You also have
spend the money.
They're going to spend the money. But psychologically, for the parents, it's like, oh, our kids got in free. Yeah. So we could do this again. We could do this next week or next month or whatever. Maybe we'll go to the ballpark more often. Suddenly you're adding up visits to the ballpark and you're going to the ballpark more. You're increasing attendance at the ballpark. But also, psychologically, for the kid going to the game, it's like, I'm going to baseball games as a kid. This is awesome. The reason I fell in love with baseball, one of the reasons is because I went to baseball games as a kid. My dad took me to the ballpark and I got to sit there and watch baseball games. It was fun. Like, if you increase opportunities for kids to go to ball games and enjoy themselves, they're going to want to watch more baseball. Yeah. So the Savannah Bananas are doing what baseball should be doing: inject more fun into the baseball experience. Like, have crazy colors and crazy outfits. Let players dance and flip their bats and play whatever music they want. And have there be side games and like make the minor league come into the majors a little bit more. That's what should be happening in baseball more often. And the Bananas did that very well over several years now. And because of that, they tour the country and they're selling out major leagues. Like, you went to the game and
I did
at Daikin a couple, was it last year or whatever it was?
I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Either way,
recently, but it was
either
great.
way,
it was
like
so much fun.
So much fun. They brought in old major league players. Like, it was very Houston, but it was also like this very unique experience. And I'm sure like the sound was like a lot of screaming children.
It was loud in there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a headache leaving. Like, I did not have as much fun as I did, because like this side of my head, like my eye, like everything just felt like I was like, oh my god, I need to. Oh my god, there's a lot happening, but it was so much fun. It was worth it, and just so many kids like in their like team baseball uniforms and like buying all the merch from the Bananas. It was really cool. They also explained that their foundation they do is called Bananas Foster for foster kids. And
oh my god, I love that.
That's just like how, it's amazing. I'm like, Bananas Foster. It's like, yeah, it's perfect. I love it so much. It made me happy. I loved it. It was great. Go ahead.
No, what are you gonna say?
No, I really like that they're updating the park as opposed to just saying, oh, we'll just build another park, that they're still keeping the history there. That's huge, because you never see that. It's like, oh, we'll just build a whole new thing, make it fancier, more expensive. It's like, no, we're going to keep this bit of history and we're going to update it.
Yeah, you would think like you have something that's successful as the Bananas, which doesn't seem like it's going to go away anytime soon, and you're like adding teams to the Bananas experience, right? They have this now like universe, this cinematic universe of baseball teams that are traveling the country now. You would think, the Bananaverse, you would think that they would construct this like, okay, we're going to have an entertainment district and we're going to have, a 15,000 seat ballpark and we're going to No, we have this cool minor league stadium. We're going to like make it a little bit better. It's this old school place. It's got a lot of history. It's all these great players used to play here, Hank Aaron, whatever else. Like, let's just make it the best possible thing we can make it and be community driven, and people will come to Savannah, and it doesn't matter what ballpark is here, but because we have the money, let's make it a nicer version of what we have now. Like, it's just refreshing, and I love it, and the Bananas are awesome, and hopefully they hear this podcast and want to come on at some point in the future. So
that'd be cool.
Well, that's the news for this week on Take Me Out, and we will be back in just a few seconds to talk about the 2025 season and some trips that maybe you would want to take. Welcome back to Take Me Out. Tim here, Alex there. So we are going to do a little exercise where we look at the 2025 season and come up with some ideas for road trips that you can take as a baseball fan. Maybe you've already come up with your trips, and if so, that's cool. But if you haven't come up with your trips yet, we're going to give you some ideas. And hopefully, even if you have come up with some trips, in this exercise, you will get some maybe tips, maybe some tricks, maybe some ideas on how to plan some trips in the future, whatever it is. And we're going to do some trips that are a little obvious. We're going to do some trips that are not so obvious. And we're also going to come up with some of our own that we're going to try to figure out on the fly and schedule on the fly. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens there. Before we get into that, though, Alex, I guess first off, any general questions? Because you've made a lot of these trips in the past. I've made a ton of these trips in the past. Do you have any questions as someone who is still trying to get to ballparks, to check off your bucket list, essentially, about how to do it, things that you come across, troubleshooting things, like any questions that you have, I guess, to start?
Yeah. Of course, the first big one is transportation, because, if you already have your idea of where you want to go, you kind of need to figure out how to get there. There's, this country is unfortunately severely lacking in like rapid mass transit, like with trains and stuff like that. You got to figure out like what's your best route to get there. How do you determine that? The town and you're renting a car versus taking the train, that kind of stuff. How do you figure that in?
So for me, and I do a lot of research, so I'm moving around a lot. First off, I live in Houston, as
Mhm.
you do. And so it's a nice place to start from because it's the middle of the country, essentially. I mean, it's in the South, but it's the middle as far as east to west. So it's never a very long flight to get from one place to another coast or something like that. It's a
Mhm.
couple hours, but it's fine, right? So I almost always fly to destinations to start. I will
Right.
drive to Arlington to see the Rangers. I might drive to Atlanta for the Braves. I might drive to Florida. I might even drive to Arizona, but that's a very long drive as well. Like Arizona
Yeah.
and Florida are kind of both like the same amount of time almost. So those two are kind of up in the air. If I can find a cheap flight, I'll do that. If not, I'll drive. I like driving though too. It's a lot of fun. So I kind of go either way. And if you have the time, cool. When you get to a destination, so what I usually do is most places you can kind of put together in a trip, right? Like if I'm going to the Northeast, I can do 2 or 3 of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington.
Mhm.
And if I'm going to be there for 5 days, like you don't want to do the Northeast in like 3 or 4 days because that is insane. I mean, you can absolutely do it. But if you don't want to see anything, fine. If you do want to see stuff and like have some time to rest, like you're going to want to do more time, than just 3 days, right? So if I'm doing
Mhm.
the Northeast in like 5 days, okay, I can probably see 2 games, maybe three. But I want to kind of keep it to. I'm not going Boston to DC. Like that ain't happening.
No, that's a long drive.
I'm gonna probably do like New York to Baltimore, or maybe Boston to Philly, or maybe Washington to New York or Phil. Like I don't want to. Like I kind of want to take out some of that top and bottom.
Mhm.
So I would do like, one of the New York parks at least, depending on how the schedule bears out, plus Philly, plus Baltimore. And if I can line that up in a 5 day period, that's a good trip. That's very trainable. You can do the train from one destination to the other, and that's great because Amtrak is very saturated on the East Coast, and I can make that trip happen.
Mhm.
Driving is hard in that area of the country. It's annoying. It's a pain in the neck. It like you could get in accidents a lot easier. The highways, all that stuff. Like it is a lot to think about, and it's a lot of stress. I'm from that area. I don't mind driving in that area, but that's me. For most people, you might want to take a train in the Northeast. Um, when you're in like the West Coast and you're doing San Diego, LA, like that area, we'll talk about that in a second, that is more drivable for me, even though the traffic is still pretty high in those areas. When there is no traffic, those aren't far apart from each other, those cities, those areas. And it's a little more spread out than the East Coast is. So it's a little bit easier to drive. That said, there's trains. There's a train station like across the street from Angel Stadium,
Mhm.
and you
I've
can
been
do
to that
that.
one. Yeah.
Union Station, I think it is in Los Angeles, isn't too far from the ballpark. You then have to like get to the ballpark, and that's a whole thing. But you can make a train work there. Where the train is a lot harder to make work to me is middle of the country.
Yeah.
Kansas City, St. Louis, that kind of trip. That's a driving trip for me, especially because Kansas City's out in the hinterlands of Kansas City. Not really, but it's in the east of the downtown and the parking lots and all that. And then like Chicago and the Great Lakes and all of that, like you can do a train for the Chicago thing in some places, but like there's just not as many Amtrak routes. And honestly, Amtrak is not as cheap as it used to be.
No.
And I have found that renting a car in a lot of those cases is the same price, if not even cheaper, depending on when you get that car and what kind of car. And you have more freedom to roam around when you have a car. When you have a train
Yes.
and you're dropped off in a city, then you're relying on ride shares, which, if you're going to drink heavily and party and all that stuff, good, fine, you're doing that anyways. Good. But you're also going to spend more money on ride shares, and then you add that up with the train, and you add that up with the flight. Like it's a lot of money on transportation. I like to have, okay, I'm going to fly to one destination if it's far away, and then I'm going to just drive all around the thing. The only time when I think train is really, really like a great option is in that East Coast loop there when you're doing New York and all that stuff, and potentially the West Coast like Los Angeles, San Diego area. Otherwise, I like the freedom of a car.
Yeah. Yeah, that's easy. And I would definitely think the train would be better, especially up in New England, because up there you have a lot of toll roads, and that's just it
Yes,
adds
yeah.
up. Oh my God. I like the New Jersey Turnpike is a big one up there. It's a Yeah.
New Jersey. I love the New Jersey Turnpike. I'll tell you, I've
There's
spent
songs written about it.
a lot of hours on the New Jersey Turnpike. Let me tell you that. I know all the state, like the Walt Whitman rest stop and the what's the Vince Lombardi rest stop, and the rest stops are named after great New Jerseyans.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is like a Bon Jovi, like a John Bon Jovi rest stop now, and a Bruce Springsteen rest stop there.
Oh, Springsteen, you have to have
The
that.
Molly Pitcher, they're the Molly Pitcher rest stop. Like, great stuff there. Any other questions?
Yeah. How do you, when you look at restaurants and places to eat and breweries and stuff like that, like what are your parameters? Like, what do you want to determine of where you go? Like, I'm assuming it's like local versus like national chains and stuff like that.
I don't really go to national chains
ever
when I'm out. I always pick local. I always want to do local. So my thing when I go to a city, if I go to if I'm at a city for like a day, day and a half, 2 days, I want to try a food that is very unique to that city, the thing that they're known for, right? So if I'm in Tampa, I want to get a Cubano, a Cuban sandwich. If I'm in Chicago, I want a Chicago dog. I want tavern pie. If I'm in Minneapolis, I want a Juicy Lucy. If I'm in, San Francisco, I might want some really good Chinese food, or, like something that is very unique to that area, right? Or that they do very, very extremely well, right? That's one meal at least. And then I try to pick a place or two that's like pretty well rated, probably not gourmet, probably not like upscale, because I don't want to necessarily bring that change of clothes. I don't want to have that stress or whatever. I'm not going to spend that much money. Maybe it's a burger place. Maybe it's a craft beer bar. Maybe it's a gastropub. Maybe it's a pizza place. Maybe it's a little bit more elevated. Maybe it's like a new American sort of place where you can kind of come as you are, and that's cool. Like, I'm trying to find things that are really good, that are highly rated by especially bartenders and other people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I look for the regional magazine. Like, if I'm in San Francisco, I'm going to find the San Francisco magazine or whatever it is. If I'm in Philly, I'll get Philadelphia magazine. If I'm in Houston, I'll do Houstonia, which I used to work for. Like, I would look for that. Yeah. Shout out to Houstonia, I guess. But like, I will look for the local people who are there and know the place very well and are not going to give me a lot of bull, but service people are really the bread and butter. Like, I will literally go into a city and go to a brewery like first thing, or a bar first thing, and one that I've like heard really good things about, especially if it's like a divier kind of bar, and I'll just like belly up at the bar, get a beer, and be like, hey, I'm on a trip. I'm doing XYZ. Where do I go to eat? Where do I go to drink? And don't feed me like the touristy stuff. Like, where do you go? Like, what is your place?
Don't give me the concierge answer. Give me your answer. Give me your answer.
Yeah. And if I'm honest and open, I'm like, look, I'm here like to see a baseball game. I don't want to like go to the same touristy spots. I know what they are. I want to feel like I'm authentically in your city, and I want to like give to people that are really cool. Like, where should I go? They'll give you that answer. They will give you what you want. So that's my recommendation, is always go to a bar, a brewery, or a restaurant or whatever, and just talk to service people about where they go, because they usually have the right answer.
Good. Yeah. I love industry people. I am one.
You are one. Yes. I would ask you, honestly, if you are ever in Houston, and I'm not going to tell people where you work, but if you're ever in Houston and people want to find out where to go and what to do, like, Alex is an incredible source of wisdom for where to go in Houston.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
That's all I've got. Let's get into these road trips.
So I picked out a couple road trips, and forgive me because one of these I didn't actually put what these games were and who they were playing, but I wanted to come up with some trips that I felt people would probably want to take. These are regular trips. Some of them not so much, but like these are kind of in the vein of like, I have a long weekend. I have 5 or 6 days. Like, I want to hit a couple ballparks, here are a couple trips. So for one, the LA, Anaheim, San Diego trip. Now, you've done essentially that kind of trip, right?
Yes. And that's I did the Angels, LA, and the Angels and the Padres. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had a really cool Uber driver at downtown Disney, and he asked what I was in town for. I'm like, I'm just trying to go to all the ballparks. I haven't done Angel Stadium yet. And he was like, oh, you should check out my Dodgers playing the Padres tomorrow. And I was like, that's cool. I'm going to the game tomorrow night, though. He was like, no, this is a day game. And so I remember I took the train that we talked about that was across the street from the ballpark, straight down to San Diego, about a 3-hour drive. Normally it's a gorgeous train ride because you're on the coast, but it was a little foggy that day. But it was easy, and you got off the train and you walk over to Petco. It's about a 10-15 minute walk from the train station, I'd
And
say.
so you did 2 games in a day?
I did. I was very tired at the end of the day, as you can
That I
imagine.
mean,
Because the
you're
second
hitting it
game went into extra innings too, so I was like,
well,
cool.
and you're hitting it close if you're doing the train after the Angels game and then you're getting to San Diego. Like that's a
Yeah, I was
close
in
one.
San Diego, then to San
Oh,
to
it's the other way around.
Anaheim.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and I met a friend I went to high school with who lives in San Diego, and we actually drove back up to Anaheim.
I got you. I got you. I
Yeah,
got you. So you took the train, then you drove up. Okay, but that's still
yes,
hitting it close. That's still hitting
it
it close.
is.
So
Yeah.
that's a. So I did that trip a couple of years ago, and that was a big trip for me because it was the last ballparks I had to get to fill out my 30. And I started in San Diego and I actually flew into LA. I drove down to San Diego and then I did San Diego. I drove up toward Anaheim and I did the Angels. And then I
Mhm.
drove up to LA and I did the Dodgers. And then I flew out of LAX. So I just did the loop essentially.
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy trip. I mean, so from LA to Anaheim, it's 40 minutes by car. It's not 40 minutes by car. It's just what Google tells you, like when there's no traffic. It's more like an hour and a half, maybe. Like depends.
Yeah.
LA traffic is notorious.
Add
But
an
it's
hour to your commute.
what
That's
what
it.
I'm telling you is, yeah, add like a half an hour to an hour to every LA commute. But it's not that bad. It's not far. Like it's not that bad at all. Like honestly, like Citi Field to Yankee Stadium is about the same amount of time. It's not. But it's, it's 40 minutes to an hour and a half is not bad. Then the Anaheim to San Diego drive is, again, with no traffic, hour and a half. So it's more like 2 hours probably, but it's not bad. You can do that. You can do a long weekend and hit all these 3 parks if you are ambitious. If you want to do 5-6 days, you're gonna have a really nice time doing these 3 parks, hanging out in Southern California, like a great place to be. It's beautiful weather, all that stuff. Like I was able to do because I had more time. I drove down to San Diego like late at night and I stayed in San Diego, did the Padres. And then the day that I came up to Anaheim, I drove on the Pacific Coast Highway to Anaheim. And that was a lot of fun because the PCH is right there on the coast. You go through all these different beach towns, all these like well-known beach towns that you've heard of and, in media and stuff like that. And so it's a more leisurely drive, a lot of stoplights. It takes basically a whole day, but it's a fun drive to do. So I did that drive. So you can do all that. It's great. It's a nice trip. So here's a couple trips that I picked out. End of April, you have a Thursday night game at 6:30 p.m. in Anaheim. And I forget who they're playing. I didn't put this down. I apologize for that. 6:30 p.m. Thursday night, April 20th, Anaheim. Friday, April 25th, you go up to LA and you do a 7 o'clock game in LA at Dodger Stadium. Very doable. You do your Anaheim game at night. You can stay in Anaheim that night. That morning, you drive up to LA. Maybe you hang out in LA for the day, and then you do the Dodger game. Then after the Dodger game, you can take your time and drive down to San Diego because there's a Sunday afternoon game at Petco Park. So I'm giving you that day. Friday night, 7 o'clock game. Drive down, Sunday afternoon game at Petco. You don't have to there's a Saturday night game as well at Petco. So if you wanted to drive from LA to Petco on Saturday and get to Petco and do that, fine, do it. You're not going to see anything. You're just going to get to the park essentially and have a couple hours. But if you want the time to hang out in Southern California, take that Saturday, do what you want, rest a little bit, then drive down to San Diego or go right to San Diego the morning after the Dodger game and spend the entire rest of Saturday and early Sunday in San Diego. So there's options there. Second trip, July 4th to 7th. So this is Independence Day. Independence Day you're spending in San Diego. It's a 3:41 pitch, Friday, July 4th in San Diego. Then you drive up to LA. Again, there's a Saturday night game in LA. It might be a Saturday afternoon game actually. But you can do that. It's going to be you're gonna be you'll be tired. You're gonna be a little anxious. You can take another day and then do Sunday afternoon, 1:10 p.m. start in LA, July 6th. Then July 7th on Monday, you have a 6:30 start in Anaheim. So it's just a quick drive down. You do that Sunday evening or Monday morning, and then you're in Anaheim. Now the reason why it's a Sunday Monday and why the first trip was like a Thursday Friday. A lot of times the Dodgers and the Angels are not at home at the same time. It's because of TV rights and all that stuff. So you're going to have to do a thing where Thursday you're in LA and Friday you're in Anaheim or vice versa. Or Sunday you're in LA and Monday you're in Anaheim or vice versa. Because usually one of the teams will leave the area to go to their road trip on a Monday or it's a Thursday, Friday deal and they come in, whatever. So you're going to have to think about that. You're never going to be able to hit 2 teams on the same weekend, typically. But so think about you're going to have to take another day off of work and stuff like that. The other trip that I have is August 22nd to 25th. This is a Friday, August 22nd game, 6:40 p.m. in San Diego. So a Friday night game in San Diego. Wonderful, beautiful. It's going to like August in San Diego at night. Like awesome, great time to be there.
Very different than August in Houston, I'm sure.
Yeah, you don't want to. I'm never giving you an August Houston trip. That's never happening.
We don't hate you. Please don't do it.
Then you take Saturday. You can drive up to Anaheim for Saturday, but I'm telling you, take the time. Take Saturday and hang out in San Diego. Have a nice day there. And then drive up to Anaheim Sunday afternoon, 1:07 start on August 24th in Anaheim. And then you finish it off by driving maybe that night or the next morning to LA. It's a very quick, quote unquote, drive. Go to Dodger Stadium for a Monday night game, August 25th, 7:10 p.m. So you could do San Diego, LA, Anaheim over the course of essentially 4 days of baseball. Make it a 5-day trip if you have to factor in flights and all that. But you could do 5 days, LA, San Diego, hit all 3 ballparks, have a great time, have a day to rest, have some time to drive, enjoy Southern California and the weather. Like, those are your trips. If you want to do LA, San Diego, like, those are your trips this year.
That 4th of July one looks so cool. I just can't imagine what flights would look like, as that's a holiday weekend.
That's the thing.
Only
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah. Flights at that time are going to be a little potentially
nuts,
messy.
yeah.
So, like, think about that as well. You can always, like midweek is a better time to fly. It's usually cheaper. So, like, maybe you want to do a midweek flight and, like, stay an extra day early on, whatever the case. Or maybe go see another baseball game, whatever. Go see a minor league game. There's plenty of minor league teams out there in Southern California. So there's a lot of options there. So always some good options there for California.
Really quick, if we can pause. Is my lighting okay? Because my light died.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, cool. I have a ring light I can get set up too.
Okay, that's good.
You'll notice I'm editing. I'll be like, what? Yeah.
You're good. You're good.
Okay.
No worries. Sorry. Why don't you bring us in?
All right, cool. All right, so we just left the West Coast. Let's move a little to the opposite side. Let's go to the East Coast. Trip B.
Yeah, so this is a trip that, almost like a trip that I want to do this year, kind of, close. Mm-hmm. It's a trip that combines Pittsburgh and Washington and Baltimore. It's a trip that people don't necessarily...
Good ballparks in there. Sorry, Washington, but...
It's okay. It's okay. It's a trip that people don't necessarily think about because you always tend to group Washington and Baltimore with Philly, and you want to do that whole area. And Pittsburgh is a lot easier to group with Cleveland and potentially either Cincinnati to the south or Detroit more to the northwest. But this is actually a pretty decent option because it's a 4.5-hour drive from Pittsburgh to Baltimore. So it's a bit of a drive, but it's a very nice drive through, some country, some rural areas, a little bit of mountain stuff going on there in the Appalachians. You're driving through southern Pennsylvania, northern West Virginia, northern Maryland. It's rural. It's actually kind of a nice place to go through. In the middle of summer, really nice place to drive through. And it's just a little different. It's a different kind of vibe than the one you would get on the East Coast. So if you want to do the East in a different way, I would say this is a great trip. 4.5 hours from Pittsburgh to Baltimore, and then Baltimore to DC is 50 minutes. Okay, so it's 50 minutes with no traffic. It's more like an hour and a half. DC traffic is notoriously bad, like LA traffic. So,
oh boy, yeah.
This is the inverse of that trip. This is the only one I could find between these 3 cities that really worked. So it's a Washington to Baltimore to Pittsburgh jaunt, which is actually kind of cool because you start in DC and then you end out in PNC Park, which is a really cool place to end. So. Great. This trip is between Thursday, August and Sunday, August 24th. You want to give yourself a little bit more time to do the drive. And this is probably the least amount of time that would make sense for this trip. So Thursday, August 21st, you'll be in D.C. for a 4:05 game between the Nationals and the Mets. Okay, so this is a 4:05 start on Thursday, means you're probably flying into D.C. if you're going to hit it closer that morning. If you want to fly in the day before, have a little bit of time in D.C. to see the sights. I hear there's a lot going on in D.C. all times. Mm-hmm. So, you could do that, see some history, see the monuments, all that. But 4:05 Thursday, August 21st in D.C. Then, the next day, Friday, August 22nd, you drive up, 7:05 start, so you have a little bit of time, Baltimore against Houston. So that's a really good game between 2 good teams. You see the Astros, see the Orioles, see Camden Yards. It's a Friday night game, which means you get to hang out in Baltimore that night if you want. Maybe get some good seafood, walk around Fells Point, that whole thing. Really great place to hang out. So 7:05 start Friday, August 22nd in Baltimore. Then you take a day, Saturday, to drive from Baltimore to Pittsburgh. It's a 4.5-hour drive. You don't want to hit it close and get to the game that night. I've done that before. It's stressful. Like
Yeah, sure.
take the time, like a 4.5 hour drive is going to be more like 6 hours if you're going to stop and eat something, go to the bathroom, that whole thing. So like take Saturday to drive and enjoy yourself. And then you're refreshed, you're good to go. Sunday afternoon, August 24th, 35 start, Pirates against the Rockies. Tickets probably aren't going to be that expensive for that game because the Pirates and Rockies, from what I've heard, are not very good teams. And it's a Friday and it's a Sunday. Sunday games are actually a little bit cheaper sometimes because they're the family games. Saturday and Friday are typically more expensive. So Sunday, you might actually be getting in a good time. It's a day game, beautiful weather, hopefully. August 24th, a little hot, but I think that's a great option for you. So Thursday, August 21st to Sunday, August 24th, DC to Pittsburgh. Thoughts on that trip?
Nice long weekend. I like that. I like that idea, especially that Houston game in there.
Yeah, you can make that happen. Yes.
Oh yeah. All right. What's our next trip?
Our next trip is one that I think is a little bit more common for people if they want to do sort of the Great Lakes and hit Toronto. I know you're trying to get to Toronto this year.
Yeah.
This is Cleveland, Detroit, and Toronto. So this is not, a very atypical thing. You're just kind of running around Lake Erie and going up and then going up to Toronto, going kind of past, through the border, Lake Ontario, Toronto. There it is. There's only one trip that really worked that I saw. This is June 27th to June 30th. So not a lot of time here, 4 days. This maximizes baseball. You can spend some time on the back end in Toronto, which I highly recommend. Toronto's an awesome city to hang out in. You can also spend some time on the front end in Cleveland. That's also a really underrated city with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the really cool downtown district area that they've developed there. What is it, 5th Street or 6th Street, something like that? That's a really great little area. Cleveland's a really underrated city. So either one really works out. June 27th, Friday night, 7:10 p.m. You're in Cleveland. You're seeing the Guardians play the Cardinals. So probably not very expensive. Guardians tickets are relatively moderate and sometimes cheap. The Cardinals, while they do travel well, they're not a good team. And I think like the stories that I'm hearing is that opening day is nowhere near sold out, and they're very worried about that there. So I don't think they're going to have a lot of fans going to games this year. So that might be one where you can save some money on a Friday night. Guardians, Cardinals, 7:10 p.m. in Cleveland. Maybe get to the city that morning, hang out a little bit in Cleveland, go to the game that night. Then you drive to Detroit. Now, this is where you're cutting it close if you're doing the Saturday game. You can do this, but it is a 2-hour and 40-minute drive from Cleveland to Detroit. So you're going to want to get up early on a Saturday to make this happen because it's a 1:10 start on Saturday. I don't advise doing this, but if you're trying to maximize baseball, you can do it. Saturday, June 28th, Tigers against the Twins. My suggestion is to give yourself the extra day, hang out in Cleveland a little bit on that Saturday, and then get up to Detroit for the Sunday game. Sunday, 1:40 p.m. on the 29th of June, Tigers against the Twins. I think that's the best option.
I'm going for that one as well. That one, you kind of want a rest day in there. You need to have a rest day.
Yeah, especially when you're doing if you're cutting a Sunday afternoon is always a cut close. If you want to do a Saturday night in one town and a Sunday afternoon in the next town, or a Friday night in one town and a Saturday afternoon in the other town, that's cutting it close no matter what you're doing. So I always advise give yourself some time. Now, the good thing is you have a little bit more time with this next trip because Sunday the game ends probably around 4 p.m. or so in Detroit. You can make the drive that night, or you can wait to the next morning and do the 3-hour, 45-minute drive from Detroit to Toronto. Now, 3 hours and 45 from Detroit to Toronto is probably going to be more like 4.5 if you're not stopping. Think about the border crossing. Going into Canada takes a lot less time than coming into the United States from Toronto or from Canada. So that's good. You're not going to spend a lot of time at the border going into Canada, but you're going to spend some time. And you know what? Who knows maybe now, honestly, but the relations between America and Canada at this point.
Boy.
I didn't even think about that. But usually,
right yeah.
usually it's pretty good going from America to Canada. But it's a 3-hour, 45-minute drive. Make it 4.5 to 5 hours. Monday night, June 30th, Blue Jays against the Yankees, 7:07 start. Now, it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series, so this might not be that bad, but Yankees fans travel no matter what, and they might be there for the long weekend, or for the weekend, not the long weekend, just hang out in Toronto over the weekend and then go to the game that Monday night. So that might be something that you would have to do is it's going to be a higher price ticket because there's going to be a lot of Yankee fans there, that kind of thing. But that's a good option for you. So Friday, June 27th in Cleveland, Saturday, June 28th, or my suggestion, Sunday, June 29th in Detroit, and then Monday, June 30th in Toronto.
That's a good one. I like that.
One more trip?
One more trip. Let's do one more. Yeah.
So where are we going here?
Next, we're going back over to the West Coast, and we're going to do San Francisco and Sacramento.
Maybe you haven't
kind
done this
Bay
yet.
Area, not really.
It's the Bay Area, and then just a little bit east of that, right? So maybe you haven't done this yet. Maybe you haven't thought about your Sacramento trip if you're trying to knock out Sacramento. Because I mean, they're going to be there for 3 years. I might knock out Sacramento as a park in the future if I want to go back to San Francisco. That's probably, if I will do Sacramento, I will also do San Francisco with it. So this is the option to do San Fran and Sacramento together in a trip over a weekend. This can be done, and it can be done on a weekend. Because unlike with the A's when they were in Oakland, the Giants and the A's in Sacramento are playing a lot of series at the same time at home. So you can do the weekend series with both teams together. This is great for people who are trying to rush into the Bay Area, do the trip, and get the heck out of there. So here are some options, okay? A lot of options here. May 18th and 19th. This is a fun one because May 18th, I think this is like a Sunday, Monday thing. It's a 105 game May 18th. The Giants are playing the A's in San Francisco. May 19th, it's a Monday night, I think. It's a 7:05 game, so it's a night game. It's probably a Monday night. The A's are in Sacramento playing the Angels. So you'd have to do the drive over, but it's a Sunday-Monday deal. I think it's a Sunday-Monday deal. And you get to see the Giants and A's in San Fran. So it might be a little higher price. There might be a lot of A's fans who are going to go to a game. But I think if A's fans are going to go to any game this year, it'll probably be at Oracle Park in San Francisco.
Yeah, get as close as you can back home, you know.
So that might be the one that it gets sold out early or something like that, or maybe to the close to the to first pitch kind of thing. So if you want to see those teams together in the same ballpark or whatever, like that's an option there. But when both teams are home, a couple options here. Here we go. June 6th to 8th. These are all weekends, by the way. June 6th to 8th, San Fran's playing Atlanta at Oracle, and Sacramento's playing Baltimore at Sutter Health. June 6th to 8th. June 20th to 22nd, you have the Giants playing the Red Sox at Oracle, and the A's are playing the Guardians in Sutter Health at Sacramento. July 11th to 13th, right before the All-Star break, I believe, that weekend before, it's the Giants hosting the Dodgers at Oracle, so that's going to be a very heated series. Always fun. You'll be fine. You'll always be fine. I think you'll be fine. But that's a fun time.
Neutral colors, it's fine.
Neutral colors. And then you go to Sacramento where the A's are going to be playing the Blue Jays. Probably not as crazy. And then September 12th to 14th, I would say the weather here might be really great. Usually the weather in the middle of in the summer in the Bay Area can be kind of dicey. Weirdly, like it's rainy, it's kind of like off sometimes. But spring and fall, typically weather's pretty good in those areas. So September 12th to 14th, you have the Giants again hosting the Dodgers. So again, a lot of fun there. And then you head over to Sacramento where the A's are hosting the Reds. There's going to be like $1.50 tickets probably for that game, for those games, I would imagine. So that's a really good, if you want to save, you could spend a lot of money watching the Giants play the Dodgers, and then you go to Sacramento and spend very little money watching the A's play the Reds. So there you go.
You gotta have balance in your life. I'm a Libra, so I love that balance.
And it's a rematch of several World Series, like 1972, I think 72, 73 maybe, or just 72 or something like that. And then the 90 World Series between the A's, or the 91 World Series between 90, 99, 90. I think it's 90, A's and Reds. I it's all in my head right now. I'm trying to get it out. I think that was 90 because 89 was the Earthquake Series. So I think that's right.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, with that said, we want to do a couple trips real quick that we're trying to do this year. So do you want to do yours first?
Yeah. So the ones I came up with, mine's a short one. So mine does not have a lot of mileage. Mine is going to be Chicago, and Milwaukee. So, you got two great ballparks in Chicago. You got the Wrigley, and then oh my God, what is it? Is it guaranteed rate? No. Is that what
it's now? Rate Field. It's just rate field now.
Oh, so it's not even guaranteed.
They got rid of the guaranteed. It's not guaranteed anymore. It's not guaranteed you will have a good time at guaranteed rate field. No, I'm kidding. It's not guaranteed you will see the White Sox win this year. So they got rid of the guaranteed.
But you could, get the ballpark pass that we talked about a couple episodes ago.
That's true.
We could. So I like Milwaukee and Chicago because they're so close. It's about an hour and a half drive. And, you've got, and there's two parks in this one that I haven't been to. It's Wrigley and Great American Family? I'm losing it right now. I apologize.
American Family is in Milwaukee.
American Family, and then Cincinnati's great. Yeah, everything's great. But yeah, so my trip, it would be kind of the end of the weekend going into the week. So it is a 4-day trip on Saturday, July 5th. It's a 1:20 game. The Cubs are hosting the Cardinals, which is always a fun time there. And then you'll have a day off, like between Saturday and Monday, which is the next game. You have a whole Sunday to explore Chicago.
You want that? You totally want a day to explore Chicago.
God, it's just so much there, and it's a huge city, and it's.
I would just spend the whole day eating tavern pie and drinking beer. Quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
not really, but I love tavern. Like I fell in love with tavern pie in Chicago.
I need to add that to my list because I have not tried that place.
Oh, you got to. I was in Chicago. Tavern pie, like deep dish is like what people think of as Chicago pie, but like when you're in Chicago, like deep dish is great, but tavern pie is like the cracker crust, and it's in squares.
That's what I like. I can't do Chicago deep dish. Like it's so much sauce.
I hear you. It's an acquired thing for people, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to take any city's kind of pizza, I like Detroit style pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to have that game on Saturday, July 5th against the Cardinals with the Cubs, and then you'll have that Sunday off to explore Chicago, go eat your fill of pizza, get some hot dogs in you, get some really good Chicago beer, and then on Monday, July 7th, the Blue Jays will be playing against the White Sox, and then that's a 1:00 game, and then you're going to take the rest of that evening. I guess if you leave the game, probably since with the whole timing of the games are a lot shorter now. So I would say you can either wait and leave at the end of the game or just spend the night in Chicago and just drive up the next morning because the next game you're going to is in Milwaukee and it's not until 6:40 the Dodgers are playing the Brewers on Tuesday, July 8th.
Yeah, I mean, the morning drive is not that bad. I mean, you're going to get morning traffic from Chicago to Milwaukee. It's like an hour and a half drive.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not that bad because I'd rather spend the night in Chicago and just like rest instead of like.
You're going to spend a lot of energy at the game.
Yeah, and you're going to push yourself after like eating, drinking, having a good time in Chicago for a couple of days, and then like you want to like stop, rest, and then the next morning just get to Milwaukee. And the Milwaukee thing's really fun because when you get to Milwaukee, at like games at 6:30, like at 3:00, 3 o'clock, you want to kind of get to the bars on Blue Mound and hang out with fans and maybe have a drink, get on the shuttle, go to the park from there. Milwaukee's an awesome little ballpark town because it's designed for baseball fans. It's designed for Brewer fans to have like maximum fun with the tailgating and all that too. So like it's like you'll get there, you can like spend a couple hours in Milwaukee and feel like I've done what I need to do here in the city. But there's more to see in Milwaukee. It's a really fun town. But like the Brewers experience by itself is like worth the trip.
Yeah. Well, that's my trip. What's yours?
Cool. Okay. So, and like you said with Chicago, the thing with Chicago is like, you have to do that over like Thursday, Friday or Sunday, Monday, because it's like never happens, almost never, when the White Sox and the Cubs are in town at the same time. So just think about that. You always have to kind of use that like Monday or that Thursday as sort of a buffer. My trip, and I haven't done this trip yet. I actually haven't planned this. So I don't know when I have to do it. We're doing this live. Okay. Right. This is going to be, and this is a trip that I want to do this year. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, DC. So these are parks that I haven't been to in a while, and there's like so much I want to do with these, and like it's an area of the world that I know pretty well, but I haven't done this specific kind of trip. So Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Washington, or the other way around, Washington, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. So we're going to see if this works. Now, the thing with this trip is you got to have the day between Washington and Pittsburgh. Like at least a day there to drive from one place to the other. So I will start with Washington, and I will start with, let's say a Friday night game in Washington, because I want a Sunday in Pittsburgh. So, okay, my Phillies are playing a Friday night game in Washington on August 15th.
Okay.
Are the Pirates home on August? They are not home on August 17th. So that's out of the question. Okay. Let's see. August is also a hot month. I don't necessarily want to do August. Let's look at May or June. So May, the Nationals are home the 2nd and 4th week of May. It's a 5-week month. So, okay, the Pirates are home the 2nd week of May as well. So, if I do Washington against St. Louis on Friday the 9th, and I can do Pittsburgh against Atlanta on the 11th of May. It's a Sunday afternoon. Then can I do Cleveland on the 12th of May, which is a Monday? And guess what? I can do it. They're playing the Brewers. I missed the Phillies by a day. Man, I could. if I wanted to be aggressive and throw all my like good tips out the window, I could do the Friday night in Washington. I could do a Saturday in Pittsburgh, and then I could catch my Phillies in Cleveland on Sunday. I could do that. It would be a dumb idea. I shouldn't do it, but it is possible. The Saturday game in Pittsburgh is it's a night game. So I could do the drive early that morning on Saturday, get to Pittsburgh, go to the game, and then the next morning wake up and get to Cleveland and do the Phillies game. That said, like I have a friend in Pittsburgh I want to see. You know, I like Pittsburgh a lot. I haven't been there in a bit. Like there's a lot of cool neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. I want to see Pittsburgh more. So like I don't know if that's necessarily what I want to do. But May 9th to the 12th, that is when I can do that trip and make it work very easily for myself. Let's see if there's one other trip I can do. Maybe in June, first or second week of June is when the Nationals are home. Okay, first week of June, the Pirates are home. Okay, so here we go. And this might actually work better for me because Friday night on June, as I look at 6th, the Nationals are playing the Rangers. Friday night, June 6th, Nationals, Rangers. Then Sunday, June 8th, guess what? Pirates, Phillies. So I can see my Phillies in Pittsburgh.
State. Let's go.
Will Cleveland be home on June 8th? And the answer is yes.
Oh my God.
They are playing Cincinnati on June 9th. So I think that's my trip.
That's it.
I think that's my trip. I think I'm going to DC on June 6th. And I'm going to do the Phillies on June 8th.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to your sister.
Yeah.
Great time for me. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's my trip. So I'll try to get that in stone. If I get that in stone, now I have to check with my wife and see if it's okay that I do that trip on that time.
You definitely need permission there. Yeah.
Are there family trips we're taking? What's going on? So like, if I can do that trip, I will absolutely do that trip. So there you go. June 6th to June 10th, I believe it is. June 6th to 9th between Washington and Cleveland. There we go. That. We just made it happen.
We have our summers planned.
If you who are listening have any trips that you want to take this year, any thoughts, any ideas, and run it by me, any advice, you can always get in touch with us. You can get in touch with me over email. You can just email. This is my email address, tsmalcolm@gmail.com. You can also email our sort of umbrella email address. And I'm Tim at Clam, CLAM, Productions.com. So just email me there or drop a note on our Facebook, on our Take Me Out Facebook, or on YouTube in the comments, like wherever you want, Instagram, and say, hey, I would love some help with a trip. Can you get in touch? And we'll make that happen, and I can help you with your trip. I can absolutely do it. I don't mind. Okay. I think that's it for our trips in 2025. We have some really great stuff planned. We'll be back in a second on Take Me Out, and we will get to our last segment of the show. Stay with us.
All right, so you can find us on multiple platforms. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/TakeMeOutPod. We also have a baby Instagram that I'm working on right now. You can find us there at TakeMeOutPod. And you can also follow us on YouTube, waving at you right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, youtube.com/TakeMeOutPod. Like, comment, subscribe, rate us 5 stars. We have a Patreon that is coming very soon. Got a couple things on the pipeline there. Excited to invite y'all. But you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Rank us 5 stars because we're amazing and you love listening to us, right?
Yep, absolutely. Please listen to us. Tell your friends. Tell anybody that you know who likes baseball and likes to go traveling, especially for baseball, that we exist. We are a podcast all about traveling to baseball games and seeing the ballparks, talking about the ballparks and all the fun stuff that happens in baseball.
We're not paid by anybody.
We're not paid by anybody. We're just 2 millennials having a chat. It's a lot of fun. And I hope you pay us.
That's cool, but it's something else.
Well, you know. Just come along for the ride, though, and we'd love to have you here in our Take Me Out cinematic universe. Yes. The Take Me Out-averse. I don't know. Take Me Out-averse. Okay. We're going to have to workshop that one.
It doesn't roll off the tongue as easy as a banana-verse, but we'll get there.
Welcome back to Take Me Out. Final segment today. The Yankees, Alex, as I alluded to in the open, have made a big announcement. A big announcement that affects the ballpark experience at Yankee Stadium this year and potentially for forever. The Yankees have decided that they will never play, ever again, Frank Sinatra's version of Theme from New York, New York. By the way, a lot of outlets have just said New York, New York. It's called Theme from New York, New York. They will
Okay.
no longer, I'm a music stickler. They will no longer play that song after the Yankees lose a game. They will play it when they win a game, as they have always done. But they will no longer play it after a loss. Instead, they will play Frank Sinatra's version of the song, That's Life, written by
Classic.
Dean Kaye and Kelly Gordon. That's a great idea. I
I
mean,
love
honestly,
it.
it's
Yeah.
great. Like play the dour, mopey, like we're not good song, like that one. It's
That's
fun.
life. It happens. Yeah.
That's
Can't win them
life,
all.
come back tomorrow. It's cool. So I wanted to and we don't have to comment on I mean, it's a good move. And Theme from New York is a great song. And I love, when I hear that song, I get kind of misty thinking about New York because I used to live there.
Yeah.
But it's good that you'll still hear it at the park, just in a different context and, when it's more appropriate. I wanted to do this, though, for the final segment is, a lot of teams do have songs that they play when they win, right? When the Red Sox win, they play Love That Dirty Water, which I forget the name of the band at this point, but that's from the 60s, garage rock song. And then I think they'll play like Joy to the World by Three Dog Night, Jeremiah was a
That
bullfrog.
one. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, they have all these traditions. The Phillies play High Hopes, which is sung by, it was actually, Frank Sinatra sung High Hopes, but Harry Callis, their late announcer who died in 2009, he sang a version of High Hopes that they recorded, and they decided to play that every time the Phillies win a game after the game. So a lot of teams have songs they play when they win. But what about songs when they lose? Some teams do this, some teams don't. The Yankees are going to do this with That's Life. Alex, your favorite team's the Astros.
Yes,
What would you like to hear the Astros play after they lose a game at Daikin?
Well, I will say this. I did a little bit of thinking about this, and there is a song from Dean Martin, good old Ohioan Dean Martin, called Houston. It is a country sounding song, and I like the lyrics of this one because it's kind of like a mope on down the road, ease on down the road, kind of a country bop. Oh my God, I sound awful saying that. But I like these lyrics. It's like, well, it's lonesome in this old town. Everybody puts me down. I'm a face without a name, just walking in the rain, going back to Houston, Houston, Houston. And I like it. It's kind of like, I'm down. I'm going to go back home. I mean, even though Houston wasn't home to him, but like, I like it though. I mean, it's kind of like a Happy Trails kind of a song. It's got that vibe to it. And just, I'm going to go back to Houston. I don't want to watch this anymore. Even though I'm already in Houston, I'm going to go back to my home, I like that. It kind of gives that vibes. It's
I like
not a
that,
sad song, but it's a good song. I liked it.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the more like songwriter approach, the dour sort of melancholy approach, and I like that it still gives you a sense of love and where you're from. That's good.
Yeah.
And it's like not a Houston artist, which is cool because then you're like, it's just a little different kind of vibe.
Dean Martin. I mean, it's
very much not like maybe the opposite of what a Houston artist is.
Yeah,
Dean Martin.
exactly. Yeah. A little too rat packy, but it's still the song. I think it'll get the job done.
I like that. I like that a lot. So my favorite team's the Phillies. They play High Hopes when they win. So, Philly fans don't like losses. They just don't. Like, I don't know if you've heard, but we take losing very badly, It can be
the same about winning in some circumstances.
You could say the same about winning, but even regular season losses for Phillies, it's like, I need an hour to myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not like, I used to be like this in my 20s. Not anymore. I've way too much going on, too many responsibilities in life. I need to get over a loss pretty quick. So, honestly, like the best like losing music for the Phillies is just like whatever, like get out of here, like kind of thing, like circus music, just play. Send in the Clowns would be great. Send in the Clowns, like that would be a great one.
The theme from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, the theme from Curb, the theme from Curb would be great. Yeah. So, but I was trying to think of like Philly artists, and Philly artists, like you got the Roots obviously are incredible, like Jill Scott. You have like tons of Philly soul stuff that you could potentially do. Two options, okay? So if you wanted to go the route of like a DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Will Smith, historically from Philly, DJ Jazzy Jeff, historically from Philly. By the way, I went to high school with his son, Jazzy Jeff's son. Sat on the bus with him, hung out with him.
What?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, very funny.
Trying to throw him off the bus like his dad.
Well, I mean, like you got to do what you got to do. I would think like something like Parents Just Don't Understand or something like that. Just like something like dopey or dumb or whatever. It's not really like, it doesn't like make sense for a loss necessarily, but like just something that kind of is Philly, but also kind of hits.
Yeah.
Or, and this is more thematically, more in line with like what I would think in like a sadder, dour kind of a thing. The War on Drugs, who I love, great
Yeah.
band.
Hmm.
They are very like steeped in like sad dad kind of, emotion, right? And energy. So like I would do something like Harmonia's Dream or Change from the I Don't Live Here Anymore album.
Hmm.
Just, very like in your feelings, in your emotions as you walk out. But then it's also like, I like the War on Drugs. They're cool. They're from Philly. I like them. I'm not as upset as I used to be like 2 seconds ago. That's good.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I want to
double
leave
duty kind of a
Citizens
thing.
Bank Park. Yeah, I want to leave Citizens Bank Park with a feeling of like, you know what? It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna get over it. It's okay. Like there's always a game tomorrow. I'm not going to turn over this conveniently placed, newsstand. I'm not going to climb this flagpole and throw things at people. It's not gonna happen tonight. I feel okay. So that's where
That
I
car
lie.
over there, I'm gonna leave it right side up.
Yeah, I'm
Just
not gonna
yeah.
I'm not gonna go stand on its hood or anything like that, or like take a baseball bat. Why would I do that?
To
No.
destroy local businesses but windows. Yeah, I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
any of that.
not
Not today. Not
maybe
today.
tomorrow. Maybe if they win a game in extra innings, maybe I'll do
Yeah.
it then, but not now. So yeah,
No. No.
we're harmless people in Philadelphia. I swear we are.
Brotherly love.
That's right. Well, with that, that is the end of Take Me Out for this week. And man, we're getting so close to baseball season. We're getting so close to regular season games going to ballparks. And hopefully we helped you today in maybe getting a trip made for the 2025 season. Or maybe you have some ideas. Again, reach out to us. If you have thoughts, comments, if you want to share some of your ideas with us and share your trips with us and maybe get some advice, reach out to us on Facebook, reach out to us on YouTube, reach out to us on Instagram. And get your friends and your family members and people who you know love baseball to join us and listen to our podcast, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and a review. We would love it. We would love to grow and have a great community and really like share this experience together. So thank you for listening. If you've come this far, it's been awesome. And I will leave it to you, Alex.
It's baseball season.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks.